Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining this product session about securing and governing Copilot for Microsoft 365. My name is Daniel. I'm the Syskit Point product manager. And personally, I must say that the last 6 months to a year of talking to our customers, the community, and the industry leaders about the challenges and opportunities that they see with Copilot have been very, very intense. But at the same time, they were extremely interesting. So our aim for today is to share what we found doing this research with you, especially when it comes to securing, governing the Microsoft 365 Copilot. Today with me is Hrvoje.
So hi everybody, my name is Hrvoje. I'm an engineering team lead here at Syskit, and I've been involved with SharePoint in this way or that way for last 10 years. And last 5 years, I've been involved mostly with Microsoft 365. And we have a really interesting session for you today about Copilot. I think you're gonna like it.
Yeah. And many of you already know us as a company, but for those of you who don't, let me just briefly introduce Syskit to you. So Syskit is a software development company founded more than 14 years ago. We create innovative, high quality and easy to use governance and management solutions for Microsoft 365 and SharePoint. And currently we have almost 4,000 customers all around the world, some of which you can see here on the right-hand side. Going forward, Syskit, as said, is a management and governance platform for Microsoft 365, and it helps organizations of any size with fast-growing environments, especially in highly regulated industries, to get better control over user access, their inventory, also management across multiple Microsoft 365 services, as well as to enforce different governance policies. So Syskit Point provides deep visibility, easy cleanup, and also control over your external collaboration, oversharing, and user access. Most importantly, it helps you keep your environment clean and properly governed from the creation of the workspace until its end of life. So this is very, very important when we talk about Copilot. So let's just briefly put some, let's say, some ground rules before we go into the discussion. And this is, as always, all of the registrants will receive a recording of this demo session. At the end of the webinar, we'll have a Q&A session as well. So please use the Q&A button on the right-hand side that you can see to ask us any questions, and don't be shy. Send us your thoughts on this topic, all of the experiences that you've faced maybe with Copilot already. And also as a product team, we are always eager to hear your feedback to better understand all of the challenges that you're facing. So using the Q&A function, you can also let us know what your current challenges with Microsoft 365 are, or what your current challenges with Copilot are. So please use the Q&A button to ask any questions at any point during the demo that we are going to be doing. So that being said, I believe it's fair to say that this has been a year filled with news about generative AI. So from ChatGPT to Copilot to almost every other big player in the industry releasing their LLMs. In this case, we see organizations that are investing insane amounts into generative AI. I believe Microsoft alone has stated that they invested in excess of $13 billion into Copilot and OpenAI. So obviously with this comes a lot of marketing activities. Some would even say that, let's say, all of this is heavily overhyped. And even internally, Hrvoje and I have some contrasting viewpoints on these topics. So before we jump into our session, I would just like to know in which camp you are. Do you believe that generative AI is overhyped, or that this is something that is going to be a game changer? So we'll just have a quick survey to get your view on this. So if you can lodge the survey, that would be awesome. Yeah, I believe so. 63 of you said this is going to be a game changer. 21% of you said it's overhyped, and 16% said they are currently uncertain. Let's say so far we've been hearing a lot about how end users feel about AI, how helpful it's going to be for them, but we haven't seen much research about what IT teams think about generative AI. And I believe that these results that we see right now are something that we also find in some other surveys that we found on this. So one thing that we found while preparing for all of this is the survey that Salesforce did on 500 senior IT leaders. I believe this was somewhere beginning of end of Q1, beginning of Q2 this year. So they asked 500 senior leaders what their feelings about generative AI is, and the numbers show that let's say there is a firm belief that generative AI is going to be a game changer. I believe the numbers are also similar to what we see right now in our poll. So we said it's 63%. Here, on a much larger, let's say, scale, it's 57% of them feel that this is going to be a game changer. When they kind of poked more into this, this turned out to be either the top priority for the senior IT leaders, with 33% of them saying this is their top priority, while the other, let's say 67%, said that this is something that they will be implementing very, very soon as one of their highest currently available priorities. So at that point, let's say the magic happened when they dived into some of the, let's say, those that said that this is overhyped. So even those people, 80% of them agree that generative AI will help them serve their customers better. So as well as that it will help their organizations operate much more efficiently. So I believe it's fair to say that generative AI and all of the hype around that is real. But there is, let's say, 71% of those senior IT leaders that also believe that generative AI will introduce new security risks. And with that being said, I'm just going to switch over to Hrvoje so that he can guide you into this a bit more.
Thank you, Daniel. Let me just share my screen just to double check. So yeah, thank you. So as Daniel said, a lot of us think that Copilot may introduce some new security risks, and for that reason, it is important to understand how it actually works so we can discuss on some of the implications. So as with everything, everything starts with the user. So we have a nice icon here, and this is all the different ways that users can interact with Microsoft Copilot. So over the last couple of months, I think a lot of content came out on different experiences that users are going to have. So either in the Microsoft Word or Microsoft PowerPoint, now in SharePoint, in Teams, there's a lot of these different prompts where you're going to be able to ask Copilot something that you want to know about your tenancy. So everything starts with a user's request, and that request goes to Copilot. So Copilot at its core is actually an orchestration engine that is going to use data from your tenant and then use also a large language model. So the first thing that the Copilot actually does is do a bit of a pre-processing. So the main topic here is the semantic index that they've built, and it allows the Copilot to use something called vector-based search to pull the data from the Microsoft Graph. So Microsoft Graph, of course, is your data, is your tenant, and is your document. So Copilot is going to do a bit of pre-processing, and this pre-processing is actually enriching the request that is going to go to LLM. So the LLM is also aware a bit about your own data. In this way, the large language model is going to be able to provide you with a better answer to your question, and it's going to be much more in line with what you want to get. So once you get a response from the large language model, the semantic Copilot is going to do a bit of orchestration more, and then using semantic index, also pull some data from Microsoft Graph, enrich that response, and then return that to your users. So as we see here, the thing with the data and security, we need to ask ourselves where our data is actually available. So there is a tenant data boundary here, and it consists of Copilot. Semantic index is actually part of Copilot and the Microsoft Graph. So this is all the systems that actually do have access to your data. And then the large language models are living outside of that boundary. So the LLMs do not have the direct access to your data, but they are going to receive some of your data. So when we do this pre-processing, or when Microsoft does pre-processing, it actually injects some of these data in the large language model. But what Microsoft confirms is that they are not using our data from our tenant to train their LLMs. So the LLMs is proprietary to them. They are training them on some data, but that data is not your own data. So the thing to note here is that the LLMs are also included in what Microsoft calls Microsoft Service boundary. So if, for example, you do requests from inside of the European region, then only the LLMs inside of European region are going to process that request. So the LLMs are not per tenant, but more like per geographic region or something like that. So this is the way that the security is handled. And what makes everything actually work is the semantic index. So the most important part about semantic index is that it respects the security that is set up in your tenant. So for example, if I as a user do not have access to some of the data, of course, I don't have access to all the data in my tenant, the semantic index is going to be the one that is going to create a query to Microsoft Graph to respect that, that security permission. And it's also going to respect your sensitivity labels and a lot of different security measures that you have on your tenancy. It is a foundation for all the Microsoft Copilot and search because it can, using these vector-based search queries, pull a lot of data from the Microsoft Graph. So when we think about everything and when we set it up like this, what we can tell you is that Microsoft Copilot will only expose existing security risks. As we saw, the main issue that we see here is that maybe you have a couple of oversharing issues on your tenancy, and then Microsoft Copilot, because of its ease of use, is going to expose those oversharing issues to your customers. So I'm going to bring it over to Daniel to tell us a bit about more how we can tackle those challenges.
Thank you, Hervé. Let me just get back to this. Okay, so when we talk about oversharing and the challenges with, let's say, Microsoft Copilot, we talked a lot about this with the industry, and we kind of categorized them into 4 areas. So the first one was, how can we as IT teams make sure that Copilot has access only to the relevant information it's supposed to have access to? So this is kind of the preparation part. Then we go into the second part of these challenges, and this is the rollout. How do we make sure that users have access to the information they should have access to before we actually apply the license? The third thing is scale. Obviously, we all agree, I believe, that all of these actions for preparation is not something that is going to be scalable. So what do we as IT teams need to do to eliminate all of these daily monitorings once we roll out Copilot fully wide scale on the organization? And lastly, something that I found very, very interesting, quality is key. And we know that when you have garbage in, it means usually garbage out. So IT teams are very well aware of this, that Copilot has a lot of potential to provide wrong information to end users if the content it has access to is not kept up to date. So what they want to do is know what they actually need to do to ensure quality of the answers. So, and personally, if we take a step back and look at this from another perspective, we heard this often previously, but they were not mentioned as Copilot challenges. These were actually governance challenges with let's say, governing your entire Microsoft 365 environment. This kind of goes back to what Hervé was saying. Microsoft Copilot will only expose your existing security risks. So it's not something new that you have now with Copilot. On that note, when we discussed this, governance was kind of always meant to be a team game. And never once in my career did I talk to someone in IT who actually didn't want to mitigate all of the potential risks that they have on their tenants. But this was often saw as, let's say, some sort of distraction, and IT teams and security teams with them were actually struggling to properly implement these governance procedures because there actually wasn't much support from the wider organization, especially when we talk about it, especially from the end users, from the business team. So in that sense, it's very important. I would even say it's key to get the end users buy-in when you're implementing governance. And when we interviewed end users in the past, they almost always saw governance as some sort of a distraction. And organizations which actually managed to roll out governance successfully succeeded because they managed to explain why this is important to the end users and what's in it for them. So this was key. It was, let's say, to be perfectly honest, it was through a lot of communications, through a lot of series of trainings, internal documentations, utilizing champions. So it was a long journey to implement governance properly. We even had a separate webinar on that back in June, July, if I remember correctly. So there is a lot to talk about that. But one thing that also stood out from all of these interviews that we had was the fact that end users were mostly focusing on how to find an easier way how to do their jobs. And with that being said, I would argue that now they found one. So Copilot is that easier way for them to do their jobs. So just looking at some of the numbers that Microsoft has shared on Ignite and also last week on ESPC, with Copilot, end users now have that big motivation, and that is kind of good thing for us. And I believe that it's a good opportunity that we should all take to start implementing governance, because it is actually there to help end users utilize Copilot more efficiently. So rolling out Microsoft Copilot is the opportunity for all of the IT teams to finally get the support they always wanted to. But I won't fool you here. So there is going to be a lot of work that you need to do in order to prepare and maintain your environments. But just going back to one of the previous points that I had, this is something that we always wanted to do. And there wasn't just enough time or push internally for us to focus on rolling out governance. And now that the business is pushing for Copilot, I believe it's a perfect opportunity for us to seize this opportunity and to kind of secure our tenants in a way that they should have been secured from the start. So with that being said, let's just go through some of the things, how you can actually do that with Microsoft, and over to Hrvoje now.
Okay, thank you, Daniel. I'm gonna show my screen. So yeah, as Daniel mentioned, this is the moment to do some of these things that we always wanted to do, right? So when we talk with our customers, and we found out that there are 3 different categories that these actions can be sorted inside. So there are a couple of things that you must do before the implementation of Copilot. There are a couple of things that you should do. These are I would say they have a good ratio of effort versus what you get back from it. And there are a couple of things that you could do. So we go by the sorted. The thing that we want to drive here in this presentation is that you should focus on the high impact quick wins that you can actually control. So these are the rather simple things that you can do today to just boost your security a bit. So let's jump and see what you can do by using Microsoft controls. A quick note here, you are going to need additional licenses, but let's see what you can do with the native controls. Let us first start with these musts. So these are the 4 different things that you can do, and these are the things that you can actually do mostly by yourself, as if you are talking about the IT team. So these are some of those things that you don't necessarily need to reach out to your content owners and ask for their input, although you're going to get a better result if you actually do. So the first thing on this list is change sharing links defaults. So as we come into this world of Microsoft Copilot, and if you share organizational wide sharing links, then everybody is going to be able to see what's going on there. So what we recommend here, and this is a really easy thing to do, is just change the sharing to specific people and then to view. So this is only the default settings that the users are going to see when they click the share link. And this is not a destructive operation, so you're not going to restrict them from doing anything. You're just giving them better defaults. So this is something that after this webinar you should do right away. Just change the default, and then you're gonna sleep a bit better at night, I guess. But what to do about existing sharing links? Yeah. So this is the part where Microsoft can help you. Do note that what I'm showing here is actually the SharePoint Premium currently. Before it was called SharePoint Advanced Management, and it comes with additional pricing. But you can use these reports. So, for example, if we are talking about Microsoft Copilot, anyone links and people in your organizational links are the ones that you want to review, just to make sure that you don't have a lot of them, and then try to find out which of those sharing links maybe you can delete or change them to specific users. In the past, when our main motivation was to try to find the external sharing, you get these specific people shared externally, so you can see who from the outside of your tenancy has. But if you're talking about Copilot, these first 2 are important. Another thing to note here, and it's a rather easy thing to do, is check up on your public teams. So I know that a lot of companies do use teams, either private or public, but most of the times you actually want the team to be private. So that means that the data inside of those private teams stays with the team owners and team members, or Microsoft Group owners and Microsoft Group members. And this is a more secure way to do, because a lot of these use cases you actually want only those people to see. So in this example, just go to Teams Admin Center and check up on all the different public teams. So hopefully you don't have a lot of public teams, but this is also part where you can reach out to your end users and try to ask them, hey, why this team is public? Maybe it does not need to be public. And the main idea here is that you want to evaluate everyone group access. So everyone except external users in this example, but also with everyone group. You want to get a hold of where everyone groups have access, because this is something that Copilot is going to just pull the data from, and then it's going to enrich responses to your end users, and you may have some kind of security risk here. So what I'm showing you here is actually from the preview of SharePoint Premium. So they're gonna give you these data access governance and then content share with everyone except external users. And then you're gonna get a nice report that is gonna give you idea of where that everyone except external users group has access. And this is something that you need to get on top of. So yeah. So these are the 4 easy things that you can do, and then we come to these things that you should do. So the main idea here behind these 3 different things is that you actually need. This is the part where you can use the drive for Microsoft Copilot to pull in your content owners and to just get a, I would say, review in some periodic time. So the first thing that you would actually want to do is establish regular access reviews. So this is something that you can do using Microsoft Entra. The license needed for this is actually P2. So you need a P2 license, but this is really important. So the thing that you want to check upon is actually all users inside of your group. So in the past, when we were most worried about external usage, we would use guest users only, but now we want to check upon all users and their permissions on those sites. What you want your end users to be especially careful about is what we call shadow users. So these are the users that have access to your content on your SharePoint sites or Microsoft Teams sites, that are not in the Microsoft, that are not in a group or owners groups, because group owners or group members, because this is the way that your security can just fall. And the important thing to note here is also that you would like your reviewers to be your group owners. So you as an IT admins, you can say, hey, I want to do that, and then you're going to have a lot of problem with the scaling that Daniel already mentioned. So try to get a buy-in from your group owners so they check up on the access on their sites. So what we usually recommend is just do it once every quarter. That's not that's enough time for something to change, and then you're not overburdening your content owners. Yeah. The other thing to do, and this is not the security issue, this part of garbage in, garbage out, is that you need to establish lifecycle management reviews. So you need to make sure that your content is actually relevant on your sites, because Microsoft Copilot is going to pull everything from everywhere, and it cannot differentiate really good what's relevant and what is not. So you need to help it a bit. And the easiest way to do this is to do it on the level of Microsoft Teams or extra Microsoft groups, is that you can just do, you need to check up on the groups that do not have any activity. So here is the way you can do it using Entra, where you can set it up every 180 days. You need to check up on life cycle of your group and try to see if it's still active and do you still need it. If possible, it would be also good to just review all the data on your site to make sure that everything is up to date, especially for those really important teams like legal or HR or something like that, where there's a lot of documents that are really important for everybody. And the last thing that I want to note here is in what you should do is you should try to use sensitivity labels. So these are, they can help you secure your environment even more. And then Copilot is going to respect that security settings that are set up in sensitivity labels. So if you set up sensitivity labels in such a way that only subset of people can decrypt the files that are protected with sensitivity labels, Microsoft Copilot is going to respect that on top of all the other security measures that you have on those files. So this is one of the better way to just make sure that those really sensitive files are actually encrypted and not available company-wide. One thing to note here, and when we talk about relevancy of your data, then retention labels is also something that you should or could look at. And then the last thing that we also recommend for customers, so you set up everything like this, but what you could do is you could get all the user permission of the users you're going to apply Microsoft Copilot license to, and this is going to make sure that they do not have any unwanted access. The main issue here, and when we are talking about these tenant-wide reports, is there is no report in Microsoft Admin Center that is going to make this easier. I asked ChatGPT to help me out, and it told me to write a PowerShell script. And then also the other thing here is it's really hard to evaluate those. So what we actually recommend is to try to find some of these reviewers, maybe the manager of that user can have better knowledge on what that user actually needs to have. So these are the 3 different things, and I would say 8 or 10 things that you can do today to help you with your Microsoft Copilot implementation. So I'm going to give it over to Daniel to tell us a bit more about this and how we can help you with it.
Okay, perfect. Thanks. So when we talk about the stuff that Syskit Point can help here, we saw that, let's say, there is a lot of great things that you can do with Microsoft native controls, like, for example, setting up that default sharing settings or start utilizing the sensitivity labels. But we also saw that there are some gaps where third-party solutions like Syskit Point can help you better prepare and actually roll out Copilot with better control. So briefly, just to go through how Syskit Point can help you bridge some of those gaps during this with the slides, and then we'll go into the demo just to showcase all of that. So when we talk to our customers and potential customers about their challenges, we split, as Hrvoje said, this into 3 buckets. So the things that IT teams must do, like minimizing oversharing with evaluating sharing links, evaluating public teams, evaluating everyone group access. But also we say to them always, it's once you've gone through all of this trouble of cleaning up the tenant, it would be wise to set up some sort of alert so that at least you're notified if something like this happens again. Going forward into things you should do, setting up functionalities like establishing regular access reviews and establishing lifecycle management is something that we say it should, because we know there is a lot of work that needs to happen behind that. But most of, let's say, we can argue if this is, let's say, even something that you must do. It's definitely a must if you want to scale Copilot. So it's not something that you will be able to do with a company or full-scale Copilot rollout. Also, things like including your end users into all of these access reviews and the lifecycle management, or having the automated rules to help you to continuously apply appropriate policies during the workspace lifecycle is something that Syskit Point can help with. And lastly, whilst we talk about reviewing user permissions, we've seen that you actually need to be a PowerShell guru, or you need to be like Hrvoje and just ask ChatGPT and hope for the best. But let's say with Syskit Point, you as admins can easily see where every user has access to. You can drill into every user and immediately see where they have access to, or even better, you can delegate this to their line manager. So they will see only their employees, and they can help you with this process of reviewing the employees' permissions before you actually apply the license. So with that being said, we're just going to briefly jump into the demo. And I'm just going to show all of these things, how they actually work with Syskit Point. Let me just switch to demo. Okay, so starting with the musts, we said the first thing that we recommend to everyone is to try to minimize the oversharing. And one thing that lies in the oversharing is the company-wide and obviously anonymous links. So these things are the things that you would like to get rid of or evaluate if they actually need to stay like that. So with Syskit Point, it's something that is very easy to do. You just navigate to our, for example, sharing links here. So under the reporting, we have a sharing links report. And here you can see, okay, for which teams you want to evaluate this. You can even evaluate this on a larger scale for all of this. But let's see, for the demo purposes, let's just focus on one team so that this, to show how this works. So if you can easily do here just on which links do you want to focus. So if I want to remove all of the specific people that can view or edit, I'll just remove that, and I'm going to be focusing on the remaining links that are here. So if I run the report, you see that this report is very quick. You get all of the, let's say, sharing links that are available in those teams very fast, not something. So with the reports that Hrvoje shown from Microsoft, you need to actually wait sometimes even for multiple hours to get those reports. Here you have all of those links very, very quickly, and even better, you can immediately remove the access. So if I just want to say, okay, I'm just focused on removing all of the anyone links. So let me just focus on those anyone links here, and I'm just going to remove that. So in this case, I'm just going to select everything and just click on remove sharing links, and this will remove all of the sharing links with just a couple of clicks. So this is how you can easily, let's say, remove all of the unwanted sharing links on your tenant. The other big challenge that we often hear from our customers and potential customers is the fact that they don't know where their everyone groups have access to at the moment. And this is something that you can also find relatively quickly with Syskit Point. So just moving to our group access report. So in the group access report, similar to what we had with the sharing links report, you can focus on certain groups. It's not just everyone groups. Sometimes the problems is also with the large groups. So you can focus maybe by filtering the amount of members that you want to look at. But for this example, I'm just going to be focusing on the everyone groups. And in this case, I can just select both of the everyone groups, run the report, and get the overview of where those groups have access to. And most importantly, again, I can just say, okay, everyone group doesn't need to have access to all of these resources, and I can remove this access with just one click. So this is something that is very, very powerful. It first provides you with the visibility where this is happening, and then going forward, it's something that allows you to do the management actions in bulk right straight from this report. Yeah. One of the things that we also mentioned here is the fact that you would like to monitor your private teams, your public teams. So what you can do here with Syskit Point is just going to our teams and groups. You can see all of the teams that you have currently here on your tenant, and you can focus on, for example, this has been pre-filtered already, but you can see on, let's say, all of the teams that have that you have on your tenant. So, and then you can quickly, again, just focus on, maybe you're just focusing on the confidential ones. You want to see if you have, for some reason, maybe some public teams that are confidential. And in this case, you can easily see this. And with just a couple of clicks, again, in bulk, you can either change the sensitivity of that, if this is something that shouldn't be confidential, for example, or you can ask your, let's say, team members or the owners to review these teams, and you can have a meaningful conversation with them just to say, okay, this is something that we actually, that shouldn't be public. So this should be changed to private. So with that being said, let's say we are, let's say, doing all of these things that to minimize oversharing, but we also mentioned the fact that you would most probably want to set up some sort of alerts to be notified once these things happen. So this is something that is, again, you can quickly go here to the configure tenant-wide alerts, and here you have a set of pre-built alerts that you can utilize in this case. So if I want to be notified if the sharing activity has happened with anyone, for example, I can pinpoint which group I'm mostly interested in, and then I'm going to be notified if someone has shared a particular team, a particular group with everyone. So this content is something that will be notified to as well. Going forward, you can also set up the alerts for any kind of sharing activities. So if you want to be notified if someone has given direct access, shared it with company-wide, or shared it with anyone, you can also set this sort of alert so that you are notified in this case when something like this happens. Obviously, you've gone through a lot of trouble to clean this up, and you want this to actually stay like that. And the last thing in terms of the alerts is the privacy changes. So if you want to see if a private team has been changed to public or a private group has been changed to public, you can set up these alerts here also very, very easily. So you can set it up to go to all of the Syskit Point administrators, or if you have some sort of groups, mail-enabled security groups, that you want this to be notified, you can also put this in. So these alerts is something that doesn't take a long time to set up. So this is why we always recommend these things to actually, for you to utilize as some sort of a backup or a fail-safe system where you will at least be notified if something like this happens. So with this, we've gone through kind of the must that we always recommend. So going forward with some of the shoulds, the first thing that we discussed is setting up the access reviews. So you need to start including your end users into all of this. And with Syskit Point, you can set up multiple, let's say, access reviews for different use cases. So from reviewing only members to reviewing content. And in this case, if I focus on how you can set it up, so I can set it up in a way that I want my members to, my owners to review membership, or I want them to review only content, or I want them to review both. And I can set up different recurring periods. So this is highly customizable, and usually we see customers having different use cases, often depending on the sensitivity and privacy of those teams. And this is something that all of them are, let's say, trying to implement when it comes to Copilot. We could obviously talk for hours straight about access review. We had, I don't know, many sessions about that previously. So if you want to know more about access reviews, I encourage you to reach out after the session. We can have an in-depth overview of how our access reviews actually work. But so far, we are going to be focusing on some of the other things that you can do to help you move forward with Copilot. And that is, in that case, the second thing that you would obviously should do here is to set up the lifecycle management. So with Syskit Point, you can again go into your lifecycle management settings, set up what you identify as inactive content. So if it's being inactive for how many days, and then say, okay, what your end users can do here. So they can either keep, archive, or delete the workspaces once they become inactive. So, and then you can also fine tune what you want to do with it. So they want us to remove the members, they want us to apply some sort of a prefix, something like that. So all of this is something that is highly customizable, and you can do with our own lifecycle management. So for your end users, what this would look like is they would obviously receive an email where we say to them, okay, this group has been inactive for X amount of days. What do you want to do with this? Do you want to keep, archive, or delete the workspace? Or if you need more information, you can even go into Syskit Point to see more details. So, and this is where your end users will decide what they want to do. And by doing this, they will actually be restricting the amount of stale content that is on your tenant that Copilot actually can have access to. And therefore, this will, on a large scale, help you minimize the stale content that Copilot can access to. Lastly, some things that we've released recently, let's say a couple of months ago, is the rules for auto-applying of governance policies. And this is a very powerful thing because we've often heard that, let's say, even though it's very, very nice that you can set up different policies at the point when the team or a group or a site has been created with any of the provisioning tools. The challenging part for the IT teams was actually maintaining that the appropriate policies are applied to the workspaces during the life cycle of that workspace. So for example, some team can be created as public, but during the lifecycle, it can change to private. And this actually let's say, this means that different policies should be applied to this. So with our policy automation rules, IT teams only need to set up the rules that they want Point to follow if they to apply, let's say, different sort of policies to the workspaces, regardless when and how these, let's say, workspaces have been created. So if I look at some of these rules that we have here on our demo tenant, let's say what you can do here is, obviously, you can set up different conditions. So I want to apply different policies to private. I can select, okay, I want this to be private teams, for example, that, I don't know, start with archived. So Syskit Point will look at all of these rules. Maybe you even want to include a sensitivity label here. So you can I want to have confidential archive team. So I want very, very strict policies into this. Syskit Point will follow all of these rules. And then in that case, we will apply different policies. So going for with that, let's say you can, in the next step, you can add additional policies. So from access reviews to all of the other policies that we currently support. So from minimum number of users, maximum number of users, orphaned workspaces. So you can apply all of those policies with just a set of rules. And Syskit Point will actually keep sure that whatever changes on those workspaces, we will apply those policies regardless how and when this workspace actually has been created. So with that being said, we've gone through the musts, we've gone through the shoulds, and now the only thing that you actually could do, and we do understand that from, let's say, the IT perspective, you actually most probably don't know much about where each user should have access to, but this is something where your line managers can help you with. So they have the same exact, let's say, view of what we have here, but they only see their own people that they are managing. So if they go into users and focus on some of the, let's say, people that they want to review, they can immediately see where these users have access to. So using our user access report, they get an overview of where this person has access to. And if they believe that, for example, this person shouldn't have access to engineers and research and development, they can immediately remove this access from this report, or they can look at what, let's say, what this person should, let's say, be doing within those teams. So that's something that you can easily do, and with the help of your line managers, something that you, I even believe, you should be utilizing going forward to help you, let's say, apply policy, apply Copilot licenses to those people that actually have correct access within your tenant. Okay, so that's it when it comes to the demo. The last thing that we just want to go through is just to briefly focus on some of the, let's say, functionality that, let's say, to do a quick recap of all of this. So we've seen that the hype is real. So there has been some very expensive bets made on this, and we do believe that generative AI is here to stay. So this is not something that's just going to go away. We know that Copilot will only expose existing security risks, often the risks that you as IT teams already are well aware of, and most probably you wanted to mitigate them already. So among the, let's say, business, there is a big fear about missing out, or let's say a fear of being left behind. So they will be pushing to get Copilot as soon as possible. And we should kind of utilize this in a way that let them help us help them to implement all of the governance processes so that Copilot works correctly on your environment. And actually, when you start preparing your environment for Copilot, you should start with those quick wins, as we said. So you should start with quick wins where you can actually where you can actually control. So sharing settings, evaluating sharing links, removing sharing links, evaluating group access, setting up alerts. Those things are very, very easy to set up. And the things that with this is something that you can actually utilize even now. And last but not least, this is going to be very expensive for your organization if you're going with Copilot. So having the right tools to help you succeed with, let's say, Copilot is the key here. So we've seen that Microsoft native controls have some gaps. So we should utilize all of the, let's say, help we can get here, and Syskit Point is here to help you roll out Copilot in a, let's say, much more controlled way. So with that being said, before we jump into our Q&A session, I just wanted to mention that if you liked what you saw so far and you still don't have your copy of Syskit Point, you can try your own Syskit Point for 21 days. There is no commitment needed. You just need to kind of you just need to start your own trial. Or you can contact us if you have any questions. We'll be sending you a link in the chat and also in the follow-up emails. So you can start your trial even now. Yep. So let's go into the questions. Let's see what questions we have right now. Give me 1 second. Good. Okay, so there are some interesting questions here. If we don't manage to answer all of them, we'll be sure to reach out after the session. So one question is, you talked a bit about sensitivity labels. What role do they play when we talk about Copilot? So Hrvoje, maybe you can take this one.
Yeah, so the sensitivity labels are something that Microsoft is telling us that they will use heavily going forward, and they are going to respect the privacy that you set up on the sensitivity labels. And this is something, as I already mentioned, it's something that that you should leverage if you are trying to use Microsoft Copilot, because this is another step of security that you can add to your environment. So that is why we really recommend sensitivity labels in addition to Microsoft Copilot.
Okay, thanks. The other question that I see here is, just give me a second. Okay, so looking at your pricing, what packaging should I have to be able to do what you've shown right now? Okay, so there are, I'll take this one. So there are 3 different packages in our SaaS offering. So the first one is more around, let's say, reporting. The second one is auditing. The third one is, let's say, full-scale governance. So with that being said, if you want to be able to only prepare for the tenant and do those quick actions with sharing links and all that, management is going to be more than enough. But we certainly recommend that this is not something that you would be able to sustain going forward. So you should be moving to the functionality of governance, where you will be able to include your end users and do access reviews, doing all of these, let's say, things that you currently should be doing with let's say, governance in general. Okay, hopefully this answers the questions. And the third one, I believe we still have time for that. This is why would it be important to review public teams? So Hrvoje, maybe again over to you.
Can I jump in? So the public teams usually have a lot of different data there, because teams usually do. And the way the SharePoint is created in Microsoft, everyone except external users actually do get into SharePoint members group, and that's the way that you actually can share something that you don't want with everybody. So that is the why you should get a hang of the public teams. And also, just public teams as such are only good for company-wide things that you want everybody to have access to, and then you need to get hold of it. So it's, I would say, twofold reasons to check up on your public teams.
Okay, perfect. So basically, let's say all of the information in your public teams is wide available to Copilot. So something that you should actually be very, very let's say okay with if you don't want to do that. So good. So before we end this call, we just have one small survey to end. So if we can pop this survey up, and then we'll be ending the call. So thank you for all of the feedback. You can actually reach out to us going forward on feedback@syskit.com. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. We'll be there to support you going forward as well. Perfect. See, this is an awesome feedback. If you have, let's say, anything you want to share with us, how we can improve going forward, feel free again to reach out. So 89% of you said it's 5. Awesome. Thank you for this. So yeah, with that being said, thanks everyone for coming. And yeah, we see you on our next product session in a couple of months' time. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.